Hi, welcome back. So in this episode we're going to be looking at some rather odd looking Viglen modules. They're actually meant for a BBC micro, and these devices are a very neat little plastic cartridges for the BBC. BBC natively didn't have a cartridge slot, but it did have lots of ROM sockets on the board, which is fine if you like ROM sockets, but if you're an ordinary, in quotes, ordinary domestic user, you don't want to be fiddling about with that kind of stuff. So these were a convenient aftermarket way of adding ROMs, and they're really quite neat. So what you can do is you have this little plastic thing here, and you can stack these up. So you can have multiple ones of these, and you just say, oh, I want a copy of a word processor or whatever. You obviously switch the machine off, you pick the cartridge, bung it into your machine, and off you go. So this would work. They're just basically just a ROM, just an EEPROM, and they would work on a BBC B that had been upgraded with the ashtray socket, or they would work on the BBC Master if you had like an adapter. So it's like almost like a weird looking Y-shaped thing where you could have two of these together slotted in. On the BBC B you could only have one, and it would go on the left hand side of the keyboard into your ashtray socket, and that's it. So these came from a friend of mine, and he doesn't know what's on them, and I didn't know what's on them. He didn't know what they were. He thought they might be something BBC related, but we weren't sure. I recognised them straight away. So Viglen did make a whole bunch of things. So anyway, I have already had a look inside, and it wasn't particularly exciting. So that's it. So essentially it's just a ROM, an EEPROM, and you have no clue what's on it. So the only way really that we're going to solve this mystery is by bringing in one of these. So this is just standard EEPROM ReaderWriter thing I've shown before. So let's move that to one side. So this is actually locked down, but I've got to be a bit careful. I don't want to damage the pins. So there you go. So I'm going to grab that and then put it into the writer. I've got to make sure I get it around the right way. This has been a little twitchy lately, this thing. You have to actually hold it down a little bit. I think one of the pins is bent. So on the desktop I've got the program, the XG Pro program. So if I click read, hopefully we can there we go, we can get data over. This is WordWise. Brilliant. That's WordWise. So I wonder where I put those. What I need to do really, I don't find this particularly well, is I need to write what that is, at least temporarily. So WordWise 1.17. Cool, it's good to know what it is. So I'm going to eject that, put that, oops, way steady. Oh, it's getting a bit stuck. This is not a happy camper. Something about this ZIF socket has gone a bit funny. So let's get that back in there. I'd quite like to maintain these and not just nick the ROMs and run for the hills. It would be nice to maintain it and actually use these cartridges. I think they're great. The only problem is finding one these days. It's really difficult. They're like hen's teeth, they're not easy to find. So before I forget, I'm going to just quickly put the label on there so I know what this is, and I'll probably make a nicer label later on. As I say, if I can find a affordable module, that would be great. I know for the Master you can get that Y-shaped thing, and that's actually quite nice because you can have a whole bunch of these and slot them in and out. However, finding these is difficult. Finding the reader, the actual slot, is hard. Finding these is as hard. So you have to take the rough with the smooth. So anyway, WordWise, that is very useful, a really nice little word processor. That will come off. That one says, well, there's actually something on there, BBC PK87. I wonder what that is. PK87. Weird, don't recognise that. Let's see whether we can recover some stuff off it and identify it. So there we go. Make sure that's pushed down properly. Do the read that. Oh, it's got something. Looking for some identifying text. Do it in 16-bit, we might be able to. No, it's not going to help. So, the text we've got on there, it says what's that? UOC exclamation mark 1/1/1. Okay. Now there is ICS, IC and S exclamation mark 1997. The chip said 87. The hell is it? Let's just make sure that's read correctly. No, it wasn't. I don't think that was in properly. So that's rubbish. So TNC 1.00. It is ICS 1987. Interesting. Let's have a quick look. So BBC TNC I.C.S. TNC ROM. Oh, hang on. What's that? Yeah, TNC ROM. So what is TNC? Let's have a quick look online here. TNC. BBC ROMs. TNC 1.00. Well, if we have a look here, so let me bring up a list here. So we'll look at TNC. So I can see the ROM here. So 1.00 TNC ICS. But what the hell is it? What does it do? Interesting. Okay. I wonder whether it might be worth actually taking that ROM out and putting it into my BBC. I'm just running it. Because you could do a star help against that. TNC, no. I wonder what it's for. Okay, anyway, I'm going to do some more investigation on that because I'm surprised. I just don't know what it is, and I'll find it out and I'll put it in the description down below, and then we'll see. But anyway, I'm going to put this back. I'm going to write on here. This is TNC 1.00 1987 ICS. Okay, so we've got that as a label. Let's get this back in there because I'd prefer to keep it living in there, to be honest. What I can actually do is, because I've got the EEPROM ReaderWriter what I can do is this data here, I'm going to save that binary data. We're going to save it as what's it called? TNC 100.bin. BBC, there we go. To find the right place to put it in there. If I go to put it on dev, maybe do that. Get that right. Dev/BBC TNC 100.bin. Okay, so we've got a dump of that. So in theory, what I can do now is take. Whoa! Is do the screws up, Rich. Don't get distracted. Is make a copy of that onto an IC, so I can keep this intact. So now we know what it is, and we're good to go. Fantastic. Anyway, so lovely little Viglen modules. If I can find out what TNC is, I'll let you know in the description. If I can find a affordable Viglen module, read-write module, I'd ideally like it for the BBC B, but hey, you know, the master as well potentially, then that'll be also good. I have seen some, they are mega bucks. The BBC Master one less so, but the one for the BBC B, which goes into the ashtray, it requires a bit of fettling to get it to work, and obviously you've got to modify the case a little bit by taking the ashtray insert out. It's really neat, I love it, it's a fantastic bit of kit. Obviously the downside is it's only one device at a time, but hey. So having done the ROM dump and it being TNC 1.00 from ICS 1987, what is it? There's not that much in the way of documentation. I can see online there's references to it, and that's fine. What the hell is it for? So the easiest thing to do, I find, is to actually use the BBC emulator. So what we've got here is a standard emulator, and we're going to go to hardware, ROM configuration, and we're going to select the ROM. Hang on, we have an empty slot. Select the ROM image. I stored it in my dev folder for some reason. Dev, there we go. So that's it there. So click OK. We do a reset on it, and then if we do help, we'll see the ROMs that are available. So that's TNC, and we can load that. So we can do a help TNC TNC help, or we just run it actually with a command. Okay, yeah. So this is the so it's PK87 driver program from ICS. So that's basically what was written on the top of the thing. Now, from what I gather, I think this is a my best guess is this is a serial program to control a TNC router. So it's for manufacturing. So I think there would be a connection somewhere. So this would go. You'd plug your printer in, and you'd plug the TNC machine, your computer-controlled router, whatever you want to call it, router, maybe via a serial port or some other expansion port, whatever it was, into your beeb, and then that would drive the TNC machine. So I think it's for computer-aided manufacture. I'm not quite sure. It's a little bit niche. There's not much in the way of documentation. So there we go. So that maybe clears up the mystery. Maybe it makes it deeper. Who knows? The WordWise one, that's easy. It's just a word processor and a really good one. So there we go. That's it for now. I'll see you next time. Cheers.